Vamos a dar inicio a esta sesión en la cual trataremos la colonización francesa y el problema de la identidad. Para ello nos acompaña el profesor Saurabh Dube1, profesor del Colegio de México, y el profesor Darío Campos, director del Departamento de Historia, quien moderará esta mesa. Les damos la palabra.
Muy buenas tardes. Sean todos ustedes bienvenidos a la sesión, el seminario del día de la tarde de hoy, con el tema, como bien ya se anotaba, la colonización y el problema de identidad. Entre las personas que intervendrán en el día de hoy, en la sesión de hoy, tendremos al profesor Saurabh Dube1 del Colegio de México y también pues de la Universidad de Delhi, con el tema culturas coloniales y sujetos subalternos. Después del profesor intervendrá el profesor Bernard Lavallée de la Universidad de París con su ponencia Identidades impuestas y o antiguas, porvenir incierto en la sociedad hispanoamericana. Después de estas dos sesiones habrá un breve receso. Tras el receso daremos inicio a la tercera ponencia, que estará a cargo del profesor Max Hering de la Universidad Nacional del Departamento de Historia, con su tema Raza, Color y Pureza de Sangre. A continuación, el profesor Saurabh Dube1, el profesor es de nacionalidad india y ha trabajado y ha combinado su trabajo particular en una combinación entre historia y antropología, investigación de archivo y de campo. Ha realizado varios estudios relativos a la investigación de estudios subalternos y perspectivas postcoloniales. El profesor fue profesor de historia durante algún tiempo del Centro de Estudios de Asia y África en el Colegio de México. No obstante, a que nos va a hablar en inglés, también el profesor cuenta con suficientes habilidades para comprender y expresarse en español. Tiene una vasta hoja de vida en términos de publicaciones, algo más de 18 artículos y libros. Uno de sus últimos libros es El pasado intocable, publicado en 1998 y reeditado en 2001, al igual de otros textos como por ejemplo Después de la conversión de 2009 y otro Sujetos subalternos, publicado en el 2001, y Genealogías del presente en el 2003, entre muchas otras publicaciones. Los dejo entonces con la participación, con la ponencia del profesor Dube1. Profesor, adelante.
Muchas gracias. Les pido una disculpa de antemano. Para ahorrar tiempo voy a hablar en inglés, pero claro, hay una traducción excelente. My presentation discusses critical questions of colonial cultures and subaltern subjects, especially as these have been explored in relation to issues of history, community, and modernity. I have considered it important to highlight the contributions in these arenas of subaltern studies and post-colonial perspectives, but ever sieving the conceits of these approaches through the filters of a historical anthropology. In the paper on which this presentation is based, I provide a brief, somewhat personal account of the contradictory development of these understandings of subaltern studies and post-colonial perspectives and their uneven unraveling of colony and nation. Today, I dispense with that discussion, taking its arguments and elements as already known, and turn instead to other contentions. Two points are particularly pertinent. First, as we consider colonial identities, what exactly is it that we mean by identity? My own reference is to wide-ranging processes of formations of subjects, expressing not only particular personhoods, but also collective groupings. Upon such a view, identities comprise a crucial means through which social relationships are perceived, experienced, and articulated. Indeed, defined within historical processes of production and reproduction, appropriation and approbation, and power and difference, cultural identities and their mutations are essential elements in the quotidian constitution and incessant transformation of social worlds, in the colony and the metropole, and in the past and the present. Second, in exploring empire and colony, I do not mark these concepts, entities, as distinct domains of description. Rather, I critically juxtapose, bring together colony and empire with other key copulas of nation and state and modernity and history as parts of mutual arenas of understanding. It follows, then, that I do not rehearse a heroic history of subaltern and post-colonial perspectives. Rather, on my view, from their beginnings, these scholarly tendencies have been characterized by intellectual silences and theoretical tensions. Now, to approach post-colonial criticism and subaltern studies as shaped by key contentions is to acknowledge at once their limitations and possibilities. Such a task further requires considering these intellectual formation in the manner of critical rubrics, rather than as fully finished knowledges. Critical rubrics that emerge intimately linked to other theoretical orientations. On the one hand, the crucial difficulties that beset the post-colonial and the subalterns as categories and perspectives derive from the fact that their many meanings of subaltern, post-colonial, that their many meanings register unproductive ambiguity. I mean, ambiguities can be productive as well, but this is unproductive ambiguity. Thus, as has been repeatedly emphasized, including by prominent post-colonial critics such as Ela Shohat, as has been emphasized, the concept of the post-colonial has rested upon the divide between the colonial and the post-colonial. Here, following an apparently historical, but in fact acutely ideological insinuation, one totalized terrain, the colonial, leads to another undifferentiated arena, the post-colonial. This serves to homogenize history and to sanitize politics. Not surprisingly, the notion of the subaltern has been equally marked with accusations of empirical imprecision and analytical aggrandizement. The charges stick when post-colonial and subaltern studies are treated as privileged perspectives and exclusive inquiries. On the other hand, across disciplines and contexts, abiding endeavors articulating post-colonial and subaltern perspectives have undertaken salient tasks. To begin with, such efforts have rethought empire, including by pointing to the prior and persistent play of colonial schemes in contemporary worlds. They have highlighted thereby the immense import and ongoing influence of the interplay between enlightenment and empire, race and reason, the metropolis and the margins, and religion and politics. Moreover, writings in this terrain have severally questioned the place of an imaginary yet palpable West. They have questioned the place of an imaginary yet palpable West as history, modernity, and destiny for each culture and every identity. Especially important here have been newer understandings of community, history, and modernity, which have challenged modular conceptions of these categories' entities. Furthermore, related efforts have unraveled the terms and limits of state, nation, and citizen in Western and non-Western worlds, prudently underscoring the significance of critical difference in such distinct yet entangled terrain. Finally, in taking up such tasks, the most prescient endeavors have pointed to the critical presence of apparently marginal subaltern subjects in the making of colony and modernity, empire and nation, and state and citizen. To register such developments is to cast post-colonial propositions and subaltern studies as participants, interlocutors in wider debates rethinking the nation-state and the West, the colony and the post-colony, rethinking history and modernity. Now, influential tendencies within post-colonial perspectives and subaltern studies have tended to treat colony and empire as totalized formations. At the same time, important writings within these fields, broadly understood, have also thought through postulates of overarching colonial structures and overriding imperial systems. Such rethinking has been led by seminal scholarship in historical anthropology. For example, the work of Jean and John Komarov and Anne Stoller, to take just two examples. Studies in this new genre have explored the contradictory location and contending agendas of distinct colonizing peoples and diverse colonized groups in the creation of colonial cultures of rule. This has involved discussions of the representations and practices and the boundaries and the contradictions of imperial agents, settler communities, and evangelizing missionaries in colonial locations. In brief, there have been critical examinations not only of colonized populations, but also of colonizing peoples. And I emphasize critical examinations, not only of colonized populations, but also of colonizing peoples, even if the programmatic desire toward treating the colonizer and the colonized as part of a single analytical field has sometimes receded into the background here. At any rate, such studies have revealed the persistent fault lines and critical divisions between different agents of colonialism, diverse agendas of empire. On the one hand, the racial mythologies and the homespun lifestyles of colonizers sought to blur such fault lines. On the other, divisions between different colonialist groups also stood highlighted within everyday representations and quotidian practices in distinct contexts. It follows that the view of colonialism as a monolithic venture, a seamless and homogeneous project, stands severely tested today. At issue are not only the variations in the colonial endeavors and imperial exertions of different nations and separate epochs, featuring diverse forms of production and exchange, all important distinctions recognized in earlier scholarship. Rather, recent ethnographies, histories, and historical anthropologies have revealed that the conflicting interests and the contending visions of empire, of differentially located interests and actors, several times drove a single colonial project. At the same time, distinct colonial projects could draw upon each other's models and metaphors while imbuing them with varied and contrary salience. Three examples should suffice. In the case of colonial South Africa, John Komarov has shown that the exact divisions and conflicts between British administrators, evangelical missionaries, and Dutch settlers, the exact divisions and conflicts between these actors led to the elaboration of apartheid and empire. My own work on the evangelical enterprise in central India underscores that American missionaries in the region borrowed from the governmental modalities and cartographic practices of Her Majesty's imperial administration. But they did so in order to elaborate a rather distinct vision and practice of the empire of Christ. Finally, K. Sivaramakrishna's study of the construal of the colonial state, the shaping of forests, and the making of